Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, it's about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Outpost. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up immediately where the last episode left off. Talon is telling both Luna as well as Naya to run the moment they get the opportunity, because obviously with her kin, she won't be affected by the others, so it's not, she doesn't have to worry. I mean, granted, it doesn't matter, because, like, Terra can kill you regardless, because that Kinj works on no matter, like, that's the only one where, like, the Kinj's abilities won't protect her, but the others, to some extent, I mean, granted, like, the leader, the right Kinj one, she will be able to, still use her, like, telekinesis against you. I mean, it seems like she can only use it against you in a sense of throwing objects. She can't direct, like, the way she, like, pushes Luna. It seems like that, in that regard, you have immunity, but she can still throw objects and hurt you with them. But Janya can't, like, draw your life or whatever, so. But, despite everything, Talon, surrounded, outnumbered, still going toe-to-toe with all of them. Luckily, as I figured, your boy Tobin rolls up and kind of helps. Luna gets hurt, but he sends her along with Naya to get away. Talon sends him away with the key. It's like, take it to Janzo, find a way to destroy it. And they capture her, because they have no intention of killing her, because they actually want her, they want the corresponding god from her Kinj to wake up last, because he's the betrayer. And even later on, Talon's like, you guys say I have the power of the betrayer, and then you're saying I'm the child of the betrayer. So part of me's wondering, like, could that one have some connection to the Black Bloods? Because maybe it's not just kind of like you're the child of the betrayer. Maybe that's meant it is meant in a literal sense, that, like, maybe because that particular god is where the Black Bloods stem from. Because 313 points out later on that they supersede the Black Bloods. I was under the impression, like, they were, like, the ancestors of the Black Bloods. I mean, they are similar in certain regards, the Black Blood that they have themselves. Well, his people, we now know their names are the Kavi, but I'm like, I thought the Kavi were ancestors to the Black Bloods, but it seemed like, because they were like, yeah, like, there were no such thing as Black Bloods when they were around. Granted, who knows how, well, they've been asleep for like 1,000 years, at least the gods are, so you can only assume the same thing could be said of the Kavi, because it seemed like the betrayer is the one who turned against them, and probably the Kavi, because that's got to be where, because that begs the question, like, it must be that the betrayer ended up joining forces with humans at the time, or something, because it's like, who would put you to sleep afterwards? Maybe it's like, right, like, I'm too much of a danger to be left awake. Like, me and the rest are asleep. I should be asleep as well, because me being awake is too dangerous. Or not, unless the betrayer got betrayed or something like that. Because it's like, why, like, you betrayed the others, so why are you asleep as well, is the biggest question. But the whole point is, I'm wondering, is that one the most powerful one? Because they're making sure to wake that one up last, because it's like, right, when all the other, like, 6 of us are awake, we will be able to it's like, that one will have no choice but to submit. It's the conversation. So it's like, okay, so that must mean, like, that one's potentially the most powerful of you all, or it might be a thing of, regardless of that one being the betrayer, it's still Aster, it's still, even being the betrayer, it's like, we need all 7. Because later on they made the comment of, we need Aster to awaken the Kavi. So I was like, is that what Aster kind of does? Like, is that just kind of part of, like, the nature of, like, are the Kavi more Asters than they are anyone else amongst the those 7? Or is it just a thing of, we need all 7? Because that's probably why the key won't work, because you need all 7 of them plus the key to probably, like, awaken all of the Kavi. So that's an interesting thing. Obviously, Tobin was, like, not too happy when he returned to the outpost and found 313, but Ren and Janzo are like, no, don't hurt him. But it's like, right, those things are trying to kill me, and they've got Talon, like, I don't trust this thing, like, kill it and make sure you destroy this key when I get back. But by the time he got back there, they'd already taken Talon and run. So going back to the Outpost, obviously, for, well, there's a conversation, one, about the key. So, initially, you have Garrett wanting to destroy it because he's a lot more weary of this whole 313 and the Kavi situation than Janzo. But it's also like, because I'm sure for Garrett's perspective, it's like, you seeing a people that are enslaved, I get it, but also this is an army. They mentioned that the fact is that they are the army, that all they do is serve their master, these gods. So Janzo's looking at this as an opportunity to save a whole bunch of enslaved people, because it's like, right, they're not bad by nature, they're just following the wheels that are given to them, because it turns out the Navispore that he's talking about is it's what's inside the White Kinge. It's basically what Yavala was doing last season. That's what this one of the gods is, because it's like, right, I have all their souls. That's what she meant, like, oh, like, because without their without the Navispore, they're like lost little lambs, because we can't hear our master's voice, and that's all that drives us. Like, beyond that, we have no wills and wants of our own. Like, we only live to serve our masters, and without that voice in our head, like, we're kind of lost. Because even 313 is like, I'd rather be asleep than awake, because if I'm awake, I can't hear a master's voice, and that's just kind of like, what's the point of being alive and awake right now without that? Because that's their sole purpose. That's all they've ever known. Like, that's the only life they've ever lived. So without that purpose, it's like, then what am I doing awake? So Janzo is trying to save them, but also it does come from that perspective of, but you also know Janzo is the scientist that he is. Like, him and Rain are coming at this from the perspective of this new discovery, and Garrett had warned before, like, I hope, like, don't let your need for discovery be the reason why, like, we all basically find extinction. Because it's like, there are thousands of the Kavi below. It's like, that's enough to wipe out not only the last of humanity, but also the Black Bloods, as well as even the Grayskin. So, which, once again, just interesting that they continue they haven't been a major, they've always never been a major thing. They've always just been a background thing that kind of pops up. Who've popped up less and less, and to the point of, like, I don't even think they popped up at all last season, did they? So, but regardless, I guess it's also because Garrett has the perspective as a soldier. It's like, but that's also the thing of, I'm sure that's where Janzo's mind comes from, like, his perspective, where it's like, Garrett, you're a soldier yourself, so you'll always see threats everywhere, because it's like, right, you want to call Zed want to call the Kavi monsters, but weren't the same thing said about the Black Bloods as well. So, but it's also like, I'm sure that also fuels a little bit of this too, because, right, like, dealing with the Black Bloods beforehand was already an issue, and it wasn't to that large of a number of an army, and the Black Bloods were kind of, able to take over at the end of season 2 and for that good chunk of season 3. So it's like, plus having gone through the whole Yavala thing, like, you just be a little hesitant to kind of have to deal with mindlessly controlled army. So it's like, you kind of been through that before, you don't want to go through that again. So, because at the end of the day, it's like, right, because even Jansen's like, yeah, what their plan is for humanity, because they don't plan on, like, using that against us like Yavala did. But it's like, no, it seems like their plan is just to wipe out humanity and kind of just make this world their own, kind of, I guess, rebuild it in their image of, like, yeah, we're just going to probably wipe out humans and restart this world to be ours. So, other than that, we have the whole situation with Naya and Luna, and, Luna being like, yeah, don't pretend like you care about me, you couldn't save my sister, but it's like, right, because I couldn't save your sister, I'm going to make doubly sure I can save you. So, she patches her up the best she can, takes her to the Outpost, which leads to my favorite bits in the episode, because the moment it's like, wait, who's this woman, Janzo? It's like, oh, Naya, I've told you all about her. And it's like, no, you haven't said anything about this Naya woman. I was like, that's actually super cute. Like, I was like, it looked like Rim was getting jealous. I was like, that's actually super adorable. And then, like, the conversation comes up later on. I'm like, okay, who is this? It's like, no, I told you about Naya. It's like, no, you haven't. It's like, yeah, you remember when you told me that, the day you told me you love me, and have I ever been in love before? I told you about, like, my sister Naya. And it's like, and then like Rin is processing everything, and she's like, wait, you guys were lovers? Yeah, but you're siblings. Yeah. And then like, Naya tried to explain what happened. It's like, right, he was adopted, I was adopted. We neither one of us knew it. Well, he didn't know that he had a sister. That's a whole thing. And then it's like, right, we fell in love. Then the moment we found out we were siblings, we stopped. But nothing happened between us. Like, all we ever did was like the whole kissing. It's like, yes, kissing, huh? And just like, and it's like, because the moment Naya showed up, it clicked in my head. I was like, all right, she's going to be an aunt. That's awesome. Because she got the news. She's like, oh my God. Because at first she's like, wait, that's your new girlfriend? It's like, yeah. And it's like, oh, she's like, congratulations, Janzel's like, I'm so happy. Oh my God, I'm going to be an aunt. It's so awesome. It's just so awkward because it still bothers Rin, because it's almost like we're dating, like you and me, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm about to be the mother of your child, and I've never heard about your sister. Like, this is one of your only other living relatives besides Munt, because it's not even like, oh, like Munt's your step foster brother to a certain extent. It's like, but this is like your actual blood sister, and I've never heard anything about her. So, and so when it's like, oh, like Naya, you heard, like, Ren, could you take care of her? It's like, yeah, why not? And they, it's like, oh, like they start. I would love to get to know some of those bonding moments between it, because even like it's like, yeah, I spent time chatting with Naya, and then like Janzel was like, and she's like, and it just kind of gives him that look like, yeah, we've been talking. It's like, why haven't you told me about your sister? Like, I did. And she's like, well, not everything, but then later on she kind of eases up, because she's like, Janzel's like, right, it's kind of hard. She's like, no, I get it. It's an awkward situation to kind of have to explain. I am curious when, like, the writers decided that they were going to make Naya his sister. Like, they could have not go. Like, I wonder what made them decide to go down that route. Like, because it's also like they found out the worst possible time, arguably the best time, when Eleanor, like, just dropped that huge bomb on them. But it's like, granted, it was already after something had happened between them, but luckily it was just kissing and they had already fallen in love. So, once again, just weird and awkward. But, what's interesting? It's like, yeah, that ended up happening a lot with Janzo's relationships, because it's like, right, because Talon looked at him more like a brother rather than a lover. So it's just, I never thought about it at the time of like, yeah, that's almost kind of having a repeat thing of like, oh, we're almost lovers. Oh, never mind. We're actual siblings, not like the Talon thing where she treats me like a little brother. So it's that, but it's that we're actually siblings. But it's an awkward situation to kind of explain. It's just the whole point. But it's like, yeah, I'm truly grateful to the gods. Like, it turns out that she was my sister, and Ren's like, wait, why? It's like, yeah, because that gave me an opportunity to fall in love with you. I was like, boom. Janzo with the smooth talk. I was like, that was extra smooth, and that was really sweet and endearing. It still doesn't change the fact that it's still kind of an awkward situation, but that was still a lovely sentiment. And I love Monk being like, hey, sister, like, when will we see you again? I was like, I love it. Because it's like, yeah, Janzo's my brother and you're his sister. Like, I love how big of a heart Munt has. He's so lovable. And it's like, yeah, like when the kid, when my niece or nephew is born, like, can I stop by and visit again? It's like, of course, we'll probably need all the help we can get. And I'm like, dude, look at this family. This family's grown so much. There is a part of you that kind of wishes, despite everything, you kind of wish Eleanor was still alive to see all this happening. I kind of wish that was the case. Get introduced to her grandchild and everything, So, I don't know. I love it. Other things, speaking kind of on that love train, we have the, like, Nerda and Zed situation where he sees her in human clothes. He's almost like, what are you up to? And part of me wondering, I was like, is she just gonna like finagle with humans? And like she's talking about like getting used to their customs and stuff like that. But I'm wondering, like, is she gonna get with a human or something like that? That whole like, oh, we need to keep the Black Bloods alive by just being with Black Bloods. I'm curious, is that stance kind of changed now? Because we see Ren and her stance on the whole thing, and her and Janzo, she like made that pretty clear to the remaining Black Bloods. So, but like I said, I always stemmed that was kind of something where it seemed like Nerda was also coming from the perspective of she has a thing for Ren. But I also love the thing of like, once again, that could be just me reading too much into that, but that's what I kind of took that whole exchange and the whole thing was about. But regardless, I love that she's like poking fun at Zed because it's like, right, you're kind of blind to everything around you. He's like, what? No, I'm not. It's like, yeah, she's like, you never saw me as a woman. It's like, you never wanted me to see you as a woman, but now, yeah, I do. It's like, it's just like, you know, as kids, we grew up playing warriors, then we became warriors when we got older, then we like fought side by side. But also she was making it clear, like, yeah, that what you're thinking about, I would never forgive you for like what happened to the Black Bloods, but also like what you're thinking about would never happen between us, because that's where later on I'm curious, like, is Zed dealing with the fact is that he kind of does have feelings for Nerida and he never really realized it, because she is kind of like his best friend, and going from best friend to lovers can happen so easily. So I think maybe there's some of that, or is it simply that Zed still has feelings for Talon, like, because he always found her fascinating and his feelings for her were genuine. So maybe there is an element of jealousy when him and Garrett had that conversation of, you know, it's like, right, I really be with her? It is about repopulating the people. But he's like, yeah, but look at Ren and Janzo. They're happy. And who am I to, like, you know, poo-poo their love and their happiness? He's like, so don't listen to me. Like, I mean, look at me. I'm all alone at the end of all of this. And maybe that's where that really spawns from, and maybe that's what really gets to him. It's like, at the end of the day, I am all alone. I have no one. Nerida wants nothing to do with me. But like I said, I'm wondering, is it because he still has feelings and attachments to Talon, or is it because he has feelings for Nerida and he's just kind of realizing that now? But it's like, she'll never be with him because of just the whole, like, right, you're kind of at fault for all the Black Bloods being, so like she would never forgive him. So I don't know. I'm curious all that's going through his mind with all of that. But aside from all of that, we have the whole situation with Tobin. You know, he wants to save Talon, but he doesn't want Garrett to rush off, because it's like, right, because if you do, you'll die, because there's nothing you will be able to do against like all four of those alive. And for him, it's like, let me be the one to save her. And it's like, why? Because it's like, because I have nothing left to live for. You know, both women I love, Felista and Gwen, are going like, I have nothing left to live for. You do. And even, you know, even the whole thing of Mutt being like, talking to him, being like, I understand, you know, I'm sorry about what happened to Felista. He's like, I know how hard it is to kind of go on after losing something like that. And, you know, it's like, well, how did you find the strength to go? And he's like, well, Mom told me to take care of Janzo, and that's what I did. And he's like, I have no one to take care of it. It's like, you have this kingdom. You are a king. Like, this is Gwen and Felista's kingdom, so you got to continue it and take care of it, you know, for their sake, you know, for our sake, you know, the people here. So that's why I was like, oh, that was really sweet of Mutt to kind of talk about that. But obviously, once again, we're back to the conversation of the key. Should it be destroyed? Should it be examined and understood more? Because we do have Luna hearing the voices from it, because, you know, it is a Dragman thing. And, it, you know, because we haven't talked about it so long, I didn't think about the comparison. But, because it doesn't exist anymore. But what's the whole Book of Names thing? Is the parallel that Janzo ended up making. It's like, right, the Book of Names, it was something only a Dragman could hear. So, well, I mean, like the actual book itself, but also the stone that Ilya like could hear from. So it's like, it's the same principle that key is, but it turns out it's speaking the name of the seven gods. What I thought was so interesting though is it's like, right, it's a sequence. And it's like the first one is Janya, and I'm wondering why. Because if any, I would have thought either the one that's corresponding to Talon's Kinge, or it was going to be the one that the White Kinge one. I thought it'd be her, but why Janya? I guess maybe because of her ability. Like maybe there's some specificness to that, like that they are in some specific sequence. Like I guess that has to do with the Skevicor of like unlocking it like one at a time, and they all have to kind of do it in that sequence. Like I said, just why that specific sequence I'm curious about. Well, what's interesting too is like, I wonder how that works, because the moment they try to initially destroy the key, they're banging on it, and then Luna's like, right, my head, can't you hear it? It's screaming, you know? It's not necessarily that, like, it being destroyed is affecting her on a level like, oh, they're connected, but it's like she can hear those cries, all those voices associated with it. Like, what that's all about, I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever really go into that, because I don't think they ever really went into it about the Book of Names either, about like what you know what I'm talking about. Like, they never really went into like what that was about. It just kind of, it's a Dragman thing and just left it at that. Like, so it might not be something they really feel the need to really dive deep into. So, but the heartbreaking thing is that the four gods decide to torture Talon, and, you know, burning her just to like draw in Tobin and Zed. So, which Tobin once again says that he has to be the one that'll go. He knows exactly how to get there. He can't draw anyone else into this, because the longer they wait, the more likely Talon is to die, and it has to be him. He's like, I can teleport and everything, but also it's like, if I don't make it back, you're going to be in charge. You're still going to be in charge, Garrett. Because for him, it's like, out of anything, it's more so my duty, because I am the king. And I figured, like, with his, like, I was like hoping and praying. I was like, hopefully Tobin will come out of this. I was under the impression, like, oh, maybe he can teleport away from it. It's like, no, he can't. He can only teleport himself. Probably when the corresponding god wakes up, she can probably expand upon the teleportation power. Like, once again, we don't know the full scale of manifestation of the powers, because of that whole thing of, once again, like, they made a comparison to the one from Felista. They could never describe the pain, but it was like being burned on the inside, but now it is literally on the outside, because now that corresponding god can actually shoot fire. So who knows what that corresponding power will look like now when, you know, that god is awakened. I was kind of hoping Tobin would be able to kind of teleport him and Talon away, but knowing that it wasn't working, like, I was like, yeah, Tobin's not going to make it out of this, because I figured, like, she wanted nothing to do with the crown. Now Talon has no choice but to take the crown, because now all those who've taken that crown before her are now dead. Gwen's gone, Felicia's gone, now Tobin's gone, especially because, you know, Gwen sacrificed herself for her and everyone else. Tobin sacrificed himself to save her too. Because that was also the thing, is like, she saved my life so many times. Hell, she saved this entire kingdom. I think Tobin, probably when she would have come back, Tobin probably would have passed the mantle to her anyway, because being king was his goal initially, but he only took up that mantle now, but just because that's what Felista wanted. But once again, like, she's going, like, he has nothing left to live for, so he probably feels like he owes this to Garrett because of how much he loves Talon, but also just Talon in general, just what she's done for this kingdom, what she's done for him so many times over. So he owed her. So, and I like, for the first time in your life, Talon, you can't win this. You have to run from a battle, because she never backs down. And he ends up dying in the process. It's heartbreaking. It's like, God, it's just depressing thing after depressing. It's like, once again, it's like losing Gwen like that last season, at the end of last season. Now Felista is like, regardless of their circumstances, it sucks that happened, and now Tobin too. Because I'm sure, like, I mean, he was drowning in, like, a lot of regrets, but I think maybe on some level now he gets to be with Felista, you know? Maybe there's some silver lining in some shape or form, I guess, to it in that regard, knowing that maybe he, you know, whatever great beyond exists, that maybe he's reunited with Felista. At least you hope he is. I was thinking Talon, I mean, I think it would still take time, and there's no, like, guarantee how to really work that, is if she opened the portal and went through, but that would probably give the gods enough time to, like, follow her through as well. Because they did go over that a little bit, of, like, the plane of ashes isn't where they're necessary. Well, it's where they go from world to world, you know, and so the plane of ashes actually used to be a lush land, but I guess the gods made it into what it is now. Like, they go to a place and they ravage and destroy, and then on to the next world, and so they came to this world to do the same, but were betrayed and stopped. So what happened to the plane of ash, I guess, is going to happen to this world too. Like, how many other worlds have they done that to? Because it doesn't seem like, because it's like, the whole point was like, oh, we're going to go to paradise. It's kind of like what 313 was saying that they would do. Which, speaking of him, it is interesting, because Garrett did lock him up as a precaution, and even, you know, Jansel's like, I'm sorry. He's like, is this supposed to be punishment? He's like, yeah, just, you know, a precaution and stuff like that. He's like, honestly, it's a weird punishment, because he's like, it's silent and there's no pain. He's actually like, I like it. Because, I mean, that's the sad thing of, like, he's so used to things being the way they are, like, just being locked up in a cell quiet and without being tortured, and, like, it's like, no, like, this is, you know, heaven probably compared to what he's experienced, what him and maybe, you know, the Kavi in general have experienced before. But it's, like I said, just kind of sad that things have turned out this way. But they resurrect the fifth god, and now there's only two left. And now I'm like, man, I'm nervous, dude. Zed might not make it out of this season, man. And the way they're killing off some major recurring characters now, they're like, man, I don't know, man. Zed's been around since season 2. This might be their opportunity to kill him. I hope not. I mean, hell, like, Tobin's been around since season 2, but now he's gone. It's like, there's no safety for Zed. I think he could end up biting the dust. I hope not. But, dude, hell, for all we know, this might even end with, like, there are shows that will kill off the main protagonist. Like, usually that can potentially be an end thing, but this might be a all hope is lost thing where, like, Talon might end up, like, I'm leaning more towards, I think she'll survive. I think she will be the only one that survives. Like, they'll be able to stop everything before it goes bad. But I think Zed might bite it. I hope not, because that would suck. But yeah, like, their focus is going to be on him. Like, he's got 100% of their focus, because, yeah, they want Talon, but she's going to get, like, her corresponding one will be awoken last. So he's now got all their focus. Like, it's like, right, we're going to resurrect you, the course. So, like, that's not good, knowing that they're going to be chasing after you now. So, and you've got their unequivocal, I butchered that. You've got their undivided attention, I should say. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of that ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.